Carla Knits. Today's video is different than my regular podcast. This is going to be a recap of January, and this is going to be in regards to how am I doing using stash, how am I doing with my Make 9 boards. So just a little bit of a backstory on that. Towards the end of 2023, I was feeling a lot of anxiety regarding my yarn stash. I love pretty yarn. I am very tempted by beautiful yarns, but so much has come into my stash, and I know I can bring in yarn so much faster than I can output projects. So I knew I needed to kind of rein myself in a little bit. And so I did a couple of things. I bought myself a journal. I wanted some help with this. So I bought a journal. The pages, so I actually just bought a plain journal on Amazon. This is the A5 size. It was actually a 2-pack, and it comes embossed with that pretty floral design on there. So the A5 size. And then on Etsy, I purchased printable, like downloadable planner pages from Plan Calm from Chaos, based in the UK. So her pages, she has, I believe, 2 different sizes. So I got the A5 knitting journal, but I think she also has like the A4 or the 8x10 pages. And I really liked some of the things I was seeing, you know, in her planner. I love the graphics. I just think that is so cute. So my knitting journal. And in the journal, I'll show you some of my pages. There is a month, so it's a blank month. So, you know, this I will be able to use for years to come. So the month pages come blank. There are also weekly pages for you to print out. I did not print those out. There is a fun yarn tracker. So I hope you can see that, yarn in and yarn out. And you can either, you know, write in the yarn or color it. And I'll show you what I've decided to do for January. It comes with a yarn stash inventory page. It comes with a knitting needle inventory page, graph paper, notes, just plain pages like this with some cute graphics, knitting journal. So I printed out those. You know, there are other pages in there too. There is a gift tracker. If you do a lot of gift knitting, you can, you know, keep track of knitting, what you're making for people, probably their sizes and everything. But for right now, I printed out the blank calendar page. And my printer was kind of acting up on this one. The yarn in, yarn out. And then for each month, I also use one of the knitting journal pages. So just those 3 things for me right now. They do have like a project planner, so you could write out all of your projects. But I am really good about using Ravelry. I don't always make my notes. I don't always make notes in Ravelry, but I try to always put my projects into Ravelry and update them, you know, as I'm able to. So what I thought I would do this year was to try to keep myself organized. I would like to track my yarn in and yarn out. And I did state in my January podcast that one of my goals this year is to have a low buy year. So I've heard a lot of different podcasters talking about no buy, low buy. No, they're not going to do that. They're going to just buy whatever they want. And that's fine. You know, whatever works for them, whatever works for you is great. I didn't want to restrict myself so much that I would say I'm not going to buy yarn. But what I did do is I decided I will not be buying any yarn online. Oh, that is so hard to say. Just thinking of that, it's like, So no online buying. I am so tempted by yarn on Etsy, by yarn on Instagram, as we all are. I have, subscribed to so many yarn dyers newsletters. So what I did early January is as different yarn emails have been coming in, I have been unsubscribing from them. I don't know if I will always stay unsubscribed to them, but right now that is one way for me to avoid being tempted, is not having all of those emails come in. So yarn sale, opens tonight, mark your calendars. I didn't want that pressure right now. I still do scroll on Instagram, and I confess, I am tempted, of course. And also watching podcasts. I am avoiding watching podcasts where people are talking about hauls, HAULS, because again, I do not want to be tempted at this point. But we will see in this episode how I've done in the month of January. Have I succumbed to yarn buying? So when I say a low buy year, I'm not buying online, but if I have a knitting day out with my friends and we go to a yarn store, then I will allow myself to buy something if it has an intention, right away, that I know what I'm going to use it for. Or if, we go on vacation and we visit somewhere different that has a yarn store and I'd like to pick up souvenir yarn, maybe I will do that. So that is my plan right now for low buy 2024. Plans can certainly change. So my idea is to try to do this monthly update. So at the end or the beginning of 1 month, talk about how I did the month before. So we are almost a week into February. So going along with stash, so going along with my idea that I wanted to work from my stash and not bring so much yarn in this year, I decided I'm going to do my Make Nines, and if you've been watching, I made 3 Make 9 boards, one for works in progress, which I had 9 that came over from, last year or several previous years. I have one of new projects and one of new socks. So one specifically just for socks because I love to knit socks. But with those new projects, so the new board and the sock board, those are all new projects. And so I picked yarns in my stash to go with those. So all of the projects have yarn here that I can use and I don't need to purchase any yarn for. So I am going to go through and talk about projects that I finished in January, how I did with low buy yarn, and how much of my stash, what I did regarding my stash. So, I wondered if when I made the Make 9 boards, if it would feel too restrictive to me. But I have to tell you, it feels really good, really, really good to have a plan for, some of this beautiful yarn in my stash. In the month of January, I cast on, one of my new projects I cast on was the 12 Days of Christmas mini skein. It was a scrappy cowl by Darcy of Chit Chat Knits, and it was not on my Make 9 board. It was not a whip from last year, but I'm like, this is what I want to do. This feels so fun. So it actually started Christmas Day and went 12 days of Christmas. I was able to make that entire cowl with leftover fingering weight yarns in my stash and complete it for a gift for someone for the month of January. So that felt really good. Then I had a couple of projects that were whips from 2023 that I completed in the month of January. So from my Make 9 2024 whip board, I made the Warm Welcome baby blanket, and I'm going to put a picture here of baby AJ with the blanket on him. So I made that I made the Betangled Shawlette. So I finished the Betangled Shawlette. That was something that I had started back in August. And so I have completed those 2 projects from my Make 9 whip board. So 2 projects. Not on any of my boards. I had a pair of socks that I started, so Christmas Eve cast on, that I finished. So a pair of DK weight socks. So those got finished in January. And then one project from my new 2024 new project board, I made the Woodstack mittens. So from those projects, I'm going to tell you how many skeins of yarn I used. And I'm going to show you what I did with my tracker here. So, oh, that's going to give it away. Let me take this out a minute. All right. So in my yarn tracker, I actually colored in all of the circles for all of the yarns that I used. So the baby blanket, I'm just going to fold this in half right now. Okay, so the baby blanket used 4 skeins of yarn up. So it was a white, a light blue, a little darker blue, and a gray. So that was the baby blanket. Right here is that peppermint mocha self-striping sock yarn. Then these 3 green are for the Betangled Shawlette. And then these 2 are for the Woodstack mittens, the new project from the new project board. So in January, I got out of my stash 10 skeins of yarn, and that feels really good. Again, going back to feeling restricted. Was I going to feel restricted, you know, just having to do things on my Make 9 board or just finishing up some of those whips? I will say no. When Darcy posted in her Ravelry group that she wanted to do, you know, a swap of sorts, you know, a heart swap for Valentine's Day, I thought, how fun. So I decided, you know, I'm going to get on board and I'm going to make some Valentine themed projects. And so if you watched my previous video, I shared some quick Valentine projects that I was able to make. So I was still working on Make 9 things, whether it be whips or new projects, but then I was also able to make some of those little things in between. And we know that those little things can give us that, you know, burst of instant gratification. And that, you know, that feels really good. So for Valentine things, I completed 6 little Valentine projects. In addition to the Make 9 boards, on Instagram, there is a dishcloth make-along being hosted by the Back Porch Fiber Company. So it's BPFC Dishcloth Mal. And I decided that my cotton scraps drawer, I have a dresser with yarn in it, and my cotton scrap drawer is just very, very full. It has some full skeins, but it has much more scraps and leftovers. And so I thought this would be a good year to just make some scrappy dishcloths. And so it feels really good digging into those cotton scraps and making dishcloths. So in the month of January, I made 7 dishcloths. There were, let me see, how many knitted? I think just 1 knitted dishcloth, and then the other 6, so 7 dishcloths, the other 6 were crocheted. 1 was the diagonal dishcloth, and the other was a corner to corner dishcloth with the moss stitch or linen stitch. So that was a new pattern to me, which I absolutely love. So 7 dishcloths. So total projects for the month of January is 18 projects completed. So Christmas Day Cowl, baby blanket, the Christmas Eve cast on socks, the Betangled Shawlette, the Woodstack Mittens, 7 dishcloths, and then 6 Valentine small projects. So I got to tell you, January feels really, really good. Did I buy any new yarn for projects? Maybe you caught a glimpse of this before when I started to show it. No new yarn has come into my stash in January, and it's already February 7th, and I have not bought any yarn. So it feels really, really good to have gotten 10 skeins of yarn out of my stash. I don't know if this pace will continue this year. Some of those like the blanket was really close to being done for this year. But the Betangled Shawlette, I had to work on more than half of that to complete it. The mittens were brand new. Any sock projects that I do that are going to use fingering weight yarn, those are going to take a little bit longer than a worsted weight project or a DK weight project. So I don't know if I will output 10 skeins of yarn every month. But right now, that feels really good. I felt like January was really productive. How am I doing with my anxiety? Regarding my yarn stash. Okay. The yarn stash itself is not causing me anxiety, but I think I am just so excited and want to just do all of the things on the Make 9 board that I just want to knit faster, which we probably all want to do that and have, unlimited amounts of time to work on it and the fastest, quickest little fingers, but that's not very realistic. So I am just telling myself to enjoy this journey this year. Like I said, I thought it would be restrictive with the Make 9 boards. But right now it feels really good, having a direction, having purposes for some of the yarn in my stash. I thought I would feel restricted not buying new yarn, but that actually feels really good too, that I'm putting out yarn and not adding to my stash. So that I'm feeling really good right now. I think that is all that I want to share with you today. So that was just a really quick update. I hope to do this, like I said, I hope to do this, for each month this year. That is my intention now. We know that New Year's goals and resolutions and intentions sometimes go out the window. So we will see how this year goes. But I plan to be back next week with a regular podcast. I am excited to share some finishes and some things that I am working on, some projects that I discovered while Jeff and I were cleaning out one of our basement rooms. So I will have some different things to share with you next time. So I would love to hear, if you are doing a Make 9 board or what kind of knitting goals you have for this year. Are you just, kind of loosely just going with the flow, or do you definitely want to work through some things? If you liked this video, I sure would appreciate a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to this channel. It helps get this out to other knitters and crocheters. So until next time, I hope you all are doing well. I hope you are having great success with all of your projects, and I will see you in the next episode really soon. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.